So this is the pre-launch requirements for success. And Jake and I both work on this one. It's one of the best chapters as far as getting ready to get out there and start your business. Not because of what I say, but basically because of this one right here, the overview of loan packages is my favorite. So you got your minimum amount of notary knowledge, and then you're going to need, if you're going to be a professional notary, you're going to need a few things. Your, bare bones business plan. You need to know how to plan for profit instead of going in the hole the first month. And you need to know how to calculate your expenses and the overview of a loan package. You don't need to know the overview of a loan package. You need to know sort of what each kind of package is going to entail. So anybody can start a business, but without a plan, businesses usually fail. You need to have just a few things secured in your mind, if not down on paper, on how things are going to operate. At minimum, you should know who your customers are, what you're going to charge, and those kind of the what you're going to charge, that doesn't come immediately. Sometimes you have to feel your way around, and we're going to help you with that in this section. Now, how are you going to reach those people and are the companies that you're going to work for? That has evolved over time, and we've gone from having to send mail or postcards to being able to use email, and now there's text messages, there's all kinds of ways, or websites. You've got websites. So you need to sort of identify the best ways to reach your customers, and every type of customer is going to be different. And how you will find them is going to be different. So you need to know what your perimeter is. Where all will you travel to offer services? And when you travel, what are you going to charge for that amount of travel? What are your hours going to be? Will you work 24 hours a day? 24/7, or be available 24/7? I am not. And I'm very clear on any profile I have that I am just a certain amount of hours. On Tuesdays, I only work a few hours on Tuesdays because I have something that happens in the morning every Tuesday. And then at Tuesday at 4:30, me and the girls are going out to have dinner and a drink. So I'm not going to miss that. That's important to me. So I just block those hours off on my notary profile. So, and I will get back to that in a minute in the next slide, but what you'll also need to know sort of what your marketing strategies are going to be, and that's basically how you will reach them. Marketing can also be after the fact, after you already have a customer or client, then you want to retain that. It's also customer retention. So you need to also know why you have decided to be in business for yourself. And anything that lasts a long time needs to have something that really you need to really care about it. Some people want to do it so that they can pay off all their debt, and they do it extra on top of their jobs. Some people do it because for whatever reason, day job doesn't work for them. For me, it's always been, this is fun, and I like to do it. And I'm not good at everything, but I'm pretty darn good at this. And so I started this business because my husband had just died by suicide. I was addled, and I didn't even know where to start on trying to go to work at a regular job. But I thought, if I can just do this and I'm the only boss I've got, I think I can excel. And I did. So that was I needed to make money. And so I was passionate about that, and I've stayed. And then once I got started doing it, then I really enjoyed it. So anyway, then once you figure all that out, just figure out, where am I going to start first? Because it's very overwhelming. So like I said, if you're not going to be 24/7, or like I referred to, then don't put 24/7. It frustrates people to call you at 9:30 at night and you're not available. Don't answer the phone or whatever. So just always be very honest about when you are going to take calls and take assignments. All right, so you need to begin making a list of steps of what you're going to have to do. Step one, you need to identify all the credentials needed. Now, we went over that. It's in your handbook, what your credentials are. Your bond, a copy of your bond, copy of your E&O, the fact that you have passed the NNA certification, that you've had a background check, and that you agree that you have your E&O insurance and that you agree with all the SPW guidelines. So then you make a budget for advertising. Oh, excuse me, let's back up. Step two, make a schedule for getting them. You can't do it all tomorrow afternoon. You are going to have to say, okay, this needs to be done first. This can be done next. And then I can do this next month and it won't affect me too badly. So I'm going to suggest that while you start all this, now I know you want to be a signing agent, but it's good to go ahead and start working on getting mobile notary business, because you'll get practice and you'll just get easier in your skin as a notary public. So don't feel like you can't start working until all of this is done. Go ahead and start looking for general notary work. What do I mean by that? I mean, working for notarizing things for anyone. Just, going and notarizing a retirement form. Sometimes pharmacies call me to come and notarize a report about their inventory. I have several different types of clients on general notary work, but we're on NSA, so I'm not going to get off into that. I'm going to stick with NSA. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, don't feel defeated because you've got so many things to do. Make a budget out for advertising. How much can I spend out of my pocket for advertising? Make a budget for, start thinking about how you're going to, if you're going to get a website, what sites are you going to pay for? That sort of thing. So just start making steps, and that will help you get a plan in mind. Then, before you loan signings, you need to know how to protect your bottom line. So you need to plan your fees for profit. You've got several things to figure out before you know how much you need to charge, but don't worry, we've got a tool for that. So and you get a copy of this. You'll need to have a Gmail account so that you can just go right to it. But in your handout, there's a page that will show you exactly how to copy it to your own account. If I click that right there, it's going to tell me to make a copy and save it into my own Google account. So, okay, either way, y'all are going to have to deal with that, because it looks like that's what mine is. So see, it takes me right to it, but it knows that I've got the copy, I guess. So, but when you do it, it's going to say save. Do you want to save this? And you just say yes. But there's instructions in your companion notebook. So one of the biggest questions we see in new notaries is, I'm going to just change that, because it is not 1024. It is. That was bugging me, and I couldn't have thought straight without fixing it. So the biggest concern of notaries is, how much should I charge? And this is where I'm going to tell you that sometimes people who are talking about their big fees online are not telling the truth. And we know that they're not, because Jake and I have worked around them long enough to know, they've said things to us personally and so forth, that we know that they are not always demanding, $175 every time they leave the house. Now, We do not disagree that those kind of fees do come along. It's just that don't think you can't take a lower fee because, it's just the only fee you should ever take is like very high. That's not true at all. Now, you're going to remain competitive by knowing how low you can go while still making a profit, and how, and being able to deal with your competition head on. So on Facebook groups and so forth, you're not always going to get that kind of information. And you'll always be told how much everybody's making. I don't know why they do that, and some people are making a very nice amount of money. Don't get me wrong, but when they first started out, it wasn't like that. So don't feel bad. So on this layout, we are going to talk a little bit about what an assignment costs us actually, and so how much we're profiting. Now, I like to say that I don't want to work for less than $25 an hour as a self-employed person is the least I am interested in working for, and I like to do it more closer to 40. So before we can get to that point, we kind of need to figure out how much we need to know how much we need to make, and then how much we want to make from that job. Okay, so we need to figure our overhead, and it's just been a while since I presented this, so I'm having trouble getting my flow on here. And so you're going to figure your overhead and all the expenses that are yours, and some have more than others. You'll be starting. So in this scenario, we're going to say, okay, all this right here covers me for a year. Let's just say that. I just put some amounts in there. So shipping costs or postage, I just put in $66. My insurance, maybe it runs $1,000, what I can contribute to signing agent. And I'm not an IRS or a deductible person, so there's no need to ask me what I can take as a write-off. I mean, whatever I tell you doesn't really matter. So, because I'm not a professional. But anyway, put these amounts in here, like legal and taxes, $100. Maybe I buy TurboTax every year or something like that. So I can take that off as a legal expense or a tax expense. So, what utilities can I attribute? My internet, what's it costing me annually? So I go through there and I do that, and I just input the information that I can charge directly to my notary business. So once I do that, then I'm like, okay, I'm fairly new at this. If I can start out with getting 5 jobs per week, then I think that will give me a good idea of what each job is costing me, because you can't attribute all expenses paid in a year to one job. You kind of got to spread it out. So once you have all this information figured out, and you're only going to need to change these little amounts right here, the ones that are in green. Okay, so let's say I've got some examples started over here. So let's say that I have a reverse mortgage offer, and we're just going to start. And like I said, I aim for $45, but no lower than $25. So we are going to consider what we've been offered and what we are actually going to make. So in that example, if we make $100 for that assignment, we're going to make one amount. If we make $125, we make a different amount. So we're going to go back over here, and I'm going to show you how that works. So let's say 100, let's just do 100. Okay. Let's see. let's say that I have to drive to perform this 22 miles. We'll just leave it at that. Okay, 22 miles, and let's say that IRS is allowing 56 cents per mile, or that's about what it does cost us actual expense wise. So our vehicle, our travel cost us $12.32. Okay, and a reverse mortgage, that's going to be quite a few pages. So let's figure out how much it's going to cost us to print 450 pages. Well, I'm figuring this at 2 cents per sheet, and it's going to cost $9 to print that amount. So right now we've already got $21 coming out of that 100. So then we're going to take our annual, all this over here in the green, and it's been calculated right here. This is about $8,400. So we're going to stretch it out over 5 signings a week for about 260 signings per year. And we're going to give each of those signings a little bit of the money to bear. So that's going to be $32.27 per assignment. At that point, you've got a net profit of $39.45. Now, I don't know about y'all, but that sounds like a little bit less than I want to make for a reverse mortgage. And this also includes taxes being taken away. So if I spend 2.5 hours on that, that brings me to an amount of $15.78 per hour. And that's not enough. Now, when you're starting out, you may need to take that amount. But if you've been doing this a while, you may be able to, say, okay, I need to I don't need to get experience anymore. I'm setting my price. So let's just see how much it would take to get me up to $25, $30 an hour on that. And that's not the only way to figure it. You may want to say, okay, I don't care how much I'm doing an hour. I just want to make this much per job. But of course, we all want to make more, the top dollar, but you can also figure out how low you can go to, because right now I can tell you, I'm not taking this particular job for $100. It's just not going to work for my model. So if we put 125 in there, what changes? Well, we're getting closer to 25. So making 24, 28 is better than making nothing if you're not working. So, if you're just sitting around and just not getting any experience, you might want to say, okay, yeah, I'll take that for 125, but it would be better if you got 150. Then you would get within your range. So anyway, I am going to do one more example, and then we are going to talk about, and then I'm going to let y'all answer some questions about it. So suppose I have a seller's package. And, well, let me go back here to this example. I forgot. I had 5 miles on there. So let's look at this calculator. I'm going to put the numbers back in there. Let's do 100 and then 5 miles. Okay, so see, that lowered some expenses, but see, I'm still at $19 an hour. And if I went 125, yeah, that gets me up over $25. I thought that was a little higher than I wanted to present to y'all. But yeah, my example was it was only a 5 mile. I was only going to have to drive 5 miles. But now that we have done that, let's look at a seller's package. And seller's packages are small. I'm going to tell you all a little something about me in a seller package the other day. I had one. It was so nice. It was at a Italian restaurant, brand new here in town. They gave me some delightful glazed pastry while I was there. And I really had to work to keep those people on. They were very hyper. That everything else was making them think about something else besides signing the papers. You know, at one point they called their lawyer came. I worked for my money on that one. But anyway, we got it all signed, apple pie perfect. I bring it back, I scan it in immediately, get it back to my hiring party, grab it, wrap it up, put it in the FedEx. I get back to my house, sit down at my desk, and there at my feet is the signature page of the deed. So I had to immediately leave and go back to, I had print out a FedEx label, go back and FedEx that last page off. So that cost me $33 to get it there by the next morning. So I wound up without such a good profit on that seller's package. It started out at 125, I think, for that particular one, but it was like, oh my stars. So yeah, by the time I got all that done, it was not that great. So and it took me time, so my hourly rate went down too. Okay, so in this seller's package, oh, I misspoke. It was $75. That's what it was. I took that one for 75 because it was only 45 pages. So I really messed up on that one. Okay, so if you're doing a seller's package and it's $45, 45 pages, let's see what we can do with that. So we're going to take, let's say we get offered 75 for that. We're going to print 90 pages because we always print double. We've got our annual expenses figured out. How many a week do we think we're going to do? And let's see, where do I put in my, let's see, we've got the mileage in there. Where? Oh, 5 miles. Yeah. Okay. All right. The assignment's only going to take us an hour. All right. $75 for a seller's package that's just right down the street, just like I did, was great money. It was $32 an hour. And so I can't argue with that unless I'm going to send off a $33 FedEx. So anyhow, now I'm going to take questions. And well, first, let's see how much I would need to get it, you know, how much 100 would do. So 53 an hour. So anyway, that's how I know. And after a while, you start knowing, like if that seller's package was more than 10 miles, I would know that I would have to have $100 to do it. But, you know, to stay in that range. But the good news is once you start doing more, you change this number, say you're doing 10 a week, then you're spreading out that cost of your startup or running your office. And so then it really, you know, your profit or your profit goes up because you're just, you know, you're doing more, you're getting more money in. So what you're going to spend throughout the year is being spread out over each job. Now, I know I am not the glib speaker that my co-host is, and that I stumble around a lot. I'm a great writer, but I'm a terrible speaker. So I am going to ask y'all to ask any questions that you have about this, and be sure and download it because it really will help clarify. We get a lot of compliments and a lot of the people say this helps them to get started. And then pretty soon, you know what? You just know it in your head. So I am available. Let's see. Kim, your amount is going to vary. You can't depend on what I'm saying here. Yours is going to be personal to you. So I just put in 2 cents. And yes, you understood that information when we were looking at printers, but most people are not using the same printer that I am or buying the higher cost of, I buy maybe the big toner, maybe they are buying the smaller toner. So that's how that happens. Okay, where do you find that? You're going to open up your handy dandy. You pull it up. Okay. You're going to open up your little handy. This is your the companion notebook. And you'll go to this page right here. And let's see, where is it? Here is the link. You're going to click right there. And you're going to make a copy. And there you go. There's your very own copy. So you will go to your companion notebook and find that page that I just showed you, and you're going to be able to download it right here. And here is the link. And I'm glad that somebody asked that, because I guess it's better that I demonstrate it, because I'll be like, it's on page 46, but they're like, I still don't see that calculator. Well, that's how you get the calculator. All right, let's see. All right, Jake, hello. Okay, so Jake puts out that general notary work can be lucrative. It sure can, and it opens niche markets that are not associated with loan packages. And it's a very good way to get some practice. Lawyers do indeed need mobile notaries to go see their clients out that, I've been to bedsides when people were sick, and end of life documents, do that. I do when I have a thing about not doing wills and POAs, and this does not mean that y'all shouldn't do them, but I worked for a probate attorney for a long time, and so I actually know when I see a will or a POA that's not doing what, I can just look at it and see, okay, there's a flaw here. And so I have just made it a policy to only do POAs and wills if there's been an attorney involved, because it bothers me too much. And I'm also afraid I'll be called to witness, to be a witness in court if something goes awry. So let's see. Okay. But I do go to retirement communities quite a bit. Yeah. Jake's got a lot of good places here. All right. Okay, Ty, thank you, because I know I don't explain it like I could, and I've just got to get better at that. So, Crystal, I think I've answered your question. It's in your companion notebook, and you just go to page 46. But just, and make you a couple of copies, like open it, copy, open it, and copy. Do that more than once so that you don't lose the, some formula in it. And I think it'll be helpful to you. But you can change, if you can change this, it doesn't have to stay 0.02. You can put your actual amount in there. And then I think that's about all I need to say about that. I hope that was helpful. And we're going to go back here to okay, we will get back on our plan here. Okay. So the purpose of what we just went through is where you're going to be quoting fees. Knowing your bottom line removes the stress when you quote fees. I know, hey, I'm not doing anything. If I want to take that job for $75 and go spend a quick hour, printing, that was the total, printing and doing everything, then I'm going to make, that's within the ballpark. And I just use that figure of $25 to $40 because I just know that it works for me, that brings what I need. And you'll figure out a way to make it work for you too. This is not an exact science. It's your science, and you have to figure it out over time. So, okay, the next thing is pretty darn exciting, and I think this is just about where Jake is going to take over with our calculator. Plus, the next thing is, if you don't know what a reverse mortgage involves or a seller package, then how on earth can you quote a fee for it or know if you're getting a good deal or a modification? You know, modifications are offered at low prices or seemingly low fees, but when you do the math, you know, it's not so low, just kind of like that $75 that you just heard me say. So Jake has, and it was his idea, but we put it together, and with his background in escrow, etc., and my field experience, of course, he had it too. We think we covered just about any kind of loan package that you might be or not loan package, but just assignments that you could be offered. So you will want to make good notes for each type of package that is covered, but all of this information for every one of these types of packages is it's going to be in your handouts. Let's see, I'm going to pull this up again and show you that it is right here, and it starts right here. So page 49, you'll be able to refer back to this. The other night, it was like 10 o'clock and the phone rang, and okay, who's calling me from this number? But then I remembered, just as I picked up, it was one of our former students, and he said, you know what? I hadn't even looked at that handout that you gave us whenever I took your class, but I just want you to know that I just found out how valuable that information is. And I was like, well, good. No, I was really thrilled that he called and told me that he said, I didn't even realize I had it. And I started looking at it, and I can't believe how much information is in there. So, you know, you've taken in a lot today, but hopefully by having this little thing here, it'll help you. So with that, I am going to stop sharing and give this to Jake.
Right. All right. Thumbs up. Are we good?
Yep.
All right. So when you start getting these offers especially on a platform, it always seems that they come through so quick and people just click and accept them without really knowing the task at hand. And so you may see $75 and you're like, oh, I'm not going to do a refi and leave my house for that. And, then you look at it and it's a single document rush. It's literally 2 streets over from your house. So if you think about it, or else you're going to make $75 for a profession that requires no specific degree and so forth. So it's really important the different types of loan packages are being offered. There's been a couple nationally that we could do. And if we have to pay a certain amount, because it's really remote or whatever, we'll do that. Well, a person that's, 20 miles away will accept it and they're not reading all the instructions. And so you don't want to get caught up in that. So we're going to go over the most common type of packages, and not necessarily that they're loan packages, but they're signing agent packages. And you'll know to the degree which ones are easier, where you might be in and out, or there's less page count, or less overhead and expenses, to the ones of, wow, I should have planned all day to do this. So, all right. So moving right along, this is a snapshot of purchase loans, refinances, home equity loans, and home equity line of credit, cash real estate deals, seller packages, loan modifications, reverse mortgages, and tax loans, as well as commercial. All right, purchase loans. Sometimes they'll just say a loan package and they won't distinguish that it's a purchase, but it's about the same as a refinance. On a scale, this is about an average job, if you will. So it's about 125, maybe upwards of 150, 175 at most. You're only notarizing on average about 8 to 12. The ease of scheduling is not necessarily, well, they're not flexible because the homeowner or the borrower, the signer, has already relayed what times they are available. So when you were hired, that time slot was given to you. Either you were available at that time or you're not, you declined it. You usually are collecting funds. But again, that could vary according to what the closing disclosure, the settlement statement says. Scan backs are often needed on these. Sometimes they fund or they do what we call table funding, which means the lender blessed it. They looked at your scans. You did all your appropriate contributions to the part of the loan. The signer did their part. The title company did theirs. And so they'll say, okay, it is now table funded. And then usually it disperses when your package is dropped. So this is, kind of common. So just make sure that you have this in your mid-range pricing. Refinances, and we're talking about just regular streamlined loans, nothing too out of the ordinary. The same as a buyer package. Same thing with about the notarizations. There might be a few more. Sometimes they have a lot of CYA affidavits for the borrower because they want to make sure there's no changes since acquisition. Scambacks may or may not be required. We're seeing with the flux of new notaries coming through with the bigger amount of notarial errors that a lot of the hiring parties are across the board requiring scans rather. So just make sure that when you go through these later, that when you will be likelihood of expecting scans, so you can incorporate that in your pricing and before you agree to it. Just a few things. Sometimes a second form of ID might be required, so be on the lookout. We didn't really talk about the Patriot Act form in our loan package, but that's a form that may or may not require one ID. It may require two forms of ID. And of course, the primary should always be one that's satisfactory to your state's laws for notarization purposes. But again, they may ask for a second form of ID. We'll talk about that here a little bit. A cash real estate deal. This is where sometimes notaries the title companies or hiring parties lower their fee. And notaries are like, oh, I'm not leaving the house. Or we had a person once before, or one of my students at the college said, I don't leave the house less than $200 to put my heels on. And so anyways, it's always been a running joke. But if you see that they'll say they're offering 75 and it says seller package, but that's about 20 or 30 pages. So you're not printing a lot and you likely will not be there a long time. So if it fits your business model and it's not, across the county or the state or across the river and the mountain and all that, or you have to take a ferry or a toll necessarily, then that might be something to sneeze at. And then Brenda, in her example, if it's in your backyard, even taking your expenses, that's still more than $60 an hour. So that's why when these offers come through, it's always important to pay attention to the type of signing. All right. Home equity loans and lines of credit. Let's just use this outside of Texas for a moment. In most states, the home equity loan is just a regular refi, nothing out of the ordinary. A line of credit usually is substantially less. Usually it's 30, 40, 50 pages, and that's about the same across the country. But it could be a little thicker because you usually have more affidavits, so you will likely have more notarizations. Now, for anyone in Texas, well, if you're outside of Texas, this is one loan product you'll never be able to do because our laws require that the homeowner has to be in Texas at a particular title company. So again, those in Texas, you want to go ahead and get relationships established with a title company or a real estate law firm because you will need them to use their office to comply. And then also for those in Texas, the home equity loan packages are substantially more than they are in the rest of the country. So your page count, you're going to see a significant increase. So you want to make sure you accommodate that in your pricing. And it's not because it's the page count. It means you're actually going to be there a little longer to go over those documents. And again, your notarizations are going to be on the upper end of 20. So just remember that's more time doing your journal, more time doing notarial certificates. It's not too common that those are scanned back because those have the 3-day rescission. But again, if they are, add that tier to your pricing. All right, moving right along. And then this is, again, for the Texas folks. I'll let you look at that in your leisure time. 80/20 loans, this will kind of pick up when the rates start going back up for people who want to avoid PMI. So, because once they borrow more than 80% of loan to value, then they start having PMI. To curb that, the excess, the 20%, they will finance that either with a different lender, sometimes the same lender. This needs to kind of be a little bit higher on your pricing because you're having a full loan package, and then the second loan may be as much, maybe a little less, but it's going to be more than if it was just like a seller, So 200 plus pages, notarizations, if it's a duplicate, I mean, it could be, 25 plus. And then sometimes we see that the second lenders, like the credit union that they have a good relationship with, and they aren't really looking for the title company to be involved. Only the first lien mortgage company is. And so it could be 30 or 40 pages. So again, it's a wild card with that. Let's see. And then as Brenda had pointed out, usually your fee needs to be solid for the entire thing. They usually don't break it out. But since you are already going to be there at the table and you're not having to incur too many expenses, then they are probably going to be a little bit cheaper on the pricing, expected break on the fees. All right. Reverse mortgage loans. This is kind of at the top of the list as far as time commitment and notarizations. Earlier, Brenda was talking about that we can never discriminate for anything. And Brenda and I are big enforcers of that. If anyone's in our group in that, they're out of the group. And discrimination is a wide caliber of things. But this is one that we see, and some people may not know, but a handful of notaries will not do these because the seniors usually are happy. Well, back up. There's 2 stages to this type of loan. The first stage is when you're hired, what they call a loan application, and you are basically going out there obtaining like utility bills, copy of bank statements. It's all the preliminary information that the lender needs to finish underwriting the loan, as well as a few documents. Most of the time, they're never notarized, but people and seniors who have a little interaction with family members and things like that, they usually like to visit with us a little longer, which I love, by the way, but they can be time consuming. So if you don't do reverse mortgage loans for any of those reasons, you can never say, I don't do that because it involves old people, because you are now discriminatory, and that's a federal violation. But the reason why I try to avoid them is because the page count. And for me to do one, to travel to one, it's just the time. I just don't have budget when I have other opportunities. But when it's slow and there's nothing really going on, then I would love to do them. But again, reverse mortgage loans, because the quantity of papers on the second part, which is the actual signing, the traditional signing, it's just the paperwork. You have 2 notes, 2 deeds of trust, a lot of duplicate documents. And for the record, those all have to be filled out. They all serve a purpose. Yes, there's 2 notes. Yes, there's 2 deeds of trust. So don't think the lender snuck it in there, because I'll even tell you, one is for the benefit of Fannie Mae and the government, and the other one is in favor of the lender. All right, commercial mortgage loans. I'm going to do a quick plug for this. Brenda and I do teach a commercial mortgage loan course. This is still a niche market, and it is something that we get rave reviews. So if you are able to do that at our next one we would love to have you. Commercial mortgage loans, literally, it can be 30 pages. It can be 500 to 1,000, depending on how big the properties, the collateral that's being used. Depends on the lender. So when we say a wild card, it is out there. But if you get that opportunity, you definitely want to visit the hiring party, see what do they know is involved. Are you meeting with people, literally a board meeting, and it's all the officers there? This is dress code wise. You'll need to dress for success. And again, we don't really discuss fees because we want to avoid price fixing. But aside from that, commercial mortgage loans is such a niche that if you do a great job, a commercial escrow offer is going to hold on to you almost to the point they're going to attend your kid's soccer. They're going to expect you to attend theirs because it's hard to find a notary that is seasoned that'll do, have that experience. But this one, a lot of pages. If it's being emailed to you, they may have you swing by and pick up the documents if it's in a local market. So you might have to be doing courier back and forth. But nonetheless, for this purpose of this chapter, you need to probably have this on the very high end of your pricing analysis. All right. Loan modifications, and I hate to say this, but I'm going to be real with you. A lot of people have lost their jobs in last year and in May, and we just don't know the outcome. So to avoid another housing crash, or we probably don't want to use that terminology, but a bubble or an impact, lenders started doing loan mods several years ago. Well, they've always been there, but the big push was right around before the rates started dropping. So as rates go up, you start seeing a big push in loan mods. But people just lost their job and they found gainful employment, but because they went to a whole different industry, they may not qualify for another refinance. It's just different things that play into that. But the existing lender can reach out and say, well, let's do a loan mod. And basically it's an expressed way of bypassing and not have to go through all the review of their credit and all that good thing. So if you can get those, and these are becoming more abundant now, they're usually on the lower end, but in my experience, you usually notarize once, maybe twice, and you're probably collecting 3 signatures on the other documents. So if it's 40 pages, one document may be 10 pages, one may be 20, and the rest are just, trailing documents. If these are close in your backyard, I would recommend taking on as much as you can. This will get you really comfortable filling out your journal. It'll get rid of all the nervousness, hopefully, and you'll just be used to interacting and handling, IDs when you have to get creative and things like that. So loan mods are a good thing to take on when you first get feet wet. Those of you in Texas, other states, I know Alabama, Mississippi has similar things with tax loans, but I don't know about the lending side of it. But in Texas, these are usually small packages where people are borrowing a loan to pay their taxes that are in delinquent status. And it's maybe 5 notarizations at most, and the rest of it are just disclosures. And Brenda's in a market, or in her area rather, there's less competition, so she can do these, and she's got a great relationship with a tax lender. And where I'm at, it's either you're in and you're good, or you're going to wait in line because they hold on to their notaries that do really good. But if you have a chance to do those are really good to start out with as well. All right, we'll stop that section and move on to section 8.